Welcome back, kids.
Hey, yeah, welcome back.
Diving back into the great cholesterol myth. Been pretty interesting read so far, and today we're going to dive into, for you guys, it's the second episode. For us, it's chapter 3 in the book, and the title of the chapter is Cholesterol is Harmless.
Yeah, but it goes deeper, I guess, than just cholesterol is harmless. It's really starting to give you a really good understanding on why scientific information goes awry.
Yeah. So it all begins with the guy we've talked about before, right?
Yeah, Ansel Keys.
1953, he did the if you don't know about him, he did a study called the 7 Countries Study, and it was flawed for a variety of reasons. Number one, there was an objective he wanted to prove. The data was not giving him what he thought or what he wanted. And was it originally 23 countries?
Yeah, I think it was originally 23 countries.
And he shrunk it. When he finally published the study, he shrunk it to the 7 countries study.
To prove his narrative.
Because the other 15, 16, however many, 17 countries, the data did not align with what he was trying to prove. And what he was trying to prove was the saturated fats were bad, that they drove up cholesterol and they caused heart disease and obesity.
Right. And the data proved anything but that. There was another scientist that later on looked at his 7-country study and looked at all 23 different countries, and the data actually proved against it. So,
right.
So anyway, they're setting you up to go, this is how things go bad. And I was surprised at the kind of angle that they took. They said, we've been beater-uppers of Ansel Keys forever, and they didn't use the word hate or anything.
Admitted to lumping
you read it like, all right, he's wrong, and a bad man, right? But they're like, let's get past this. The truth is that the data is flawed, and that's not going to change how we get people healthier from here.
Yeah. Well, there was a quote I wrote down talking about the conventional wisdom that kind of evolved from Ansel Keys. And it says, it involves staggering amounts of money, the politics of publication, and the sociology of belief. That's a pretty powerful trifecta.
The last one's super important. If sociology of belief...
What's it remind you of here recently?
COVID? Yeah, I guess I was going to go in that direction, that you can point out to people, and I've had these conversations with people before. I've sat down with people who are vegans. I've sat down with people who, it's, in order to lose weight and become healthier, it's calorie in, calorie out. And I've had these conversations with them, and people are so deeply rooted in their beliefs. You could throw all the facts in the world at them, and they're going to be like, "Whoa, there's no way I'm doing this."
Well, and going back to COVID, we would probably be considered COVID deniers, and I would say that's the farthest thing from the truth. The issue that I had was that we couldn't have honest conversations about the age groups it affected. The effect on metabolic. I'm trying to find a better way to say obese.
People with obesity, BMIs, high BMIs.
But those were conversations we were not allowed to have. So you follow the staggering amounts of money.
Right.
There were staggering amounts of money. The politics of publication. You were only allowed to say...
Yeah, on Twitter and Facebook, you weren't allowed to say what you really thought.
Right. And then the sociology of belief.
And like I said, I just think it's bizarre. Like I said, it's bizarre to me that once people have their beliefs and they're stuck in them, they almost shut down data, and they go... No, this is the law. There was a lady at Publix yesterday. I'm literally going in Publix, and she's rattling off to some other lady. Oh, I'm high cholesterol, high blood pressure, blah 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 blah. And guess what she's picking out? Low fat, high carbohydrate foods.
Right, which is what Ansel Keys promoted. Right. So this has been going on decades of, the public's understanding of what is healthy, supported by a lot of money and a lot of, politics of publication. But
so even like he talks about, is it epidemiology? Is that how I say that?
Yeah.
And how studies are actually done, and when you have a pharmaceutical, you're looking to see if a drug is effective. You have a control group, and you have not a control group, and you follow them, and there's as like as they possibly can be.
RCTs.
Yeah.
Randomized controlled trials.
Yes. And so it's very scientific. He said when it comes to nutrition and diet,
it's observational studies.
It's off the chain. They don't do any of that. They use what's called a food frequency questionnaire.
Right. And what's wrong with that?
That there's a bias that, hey, Kevin, how did you eat last week? Well, last week, let me see. I ate pretty good. Right. I ate pretty good. I ate a lot of good, healthy things, and the things that I stayed away from the unhealthy things.
So
you don't pay attention to the 6 bowls of ice cream you probably had.
Well, I think it's more than that. I think it's if you're a heavy drinker. 12-pack a day.
What do they ask you when you go to the doctor? What do they ask you when you go to the doctor?
I have a couple of drinks a day.
What do you put down when the doctor asks you, how many drinks a week? And you're like, less than 3, 3 to 8, or more than 12. How many people check that more than 12 bucks?
You know what I legitimately put on those questionnaires?
What?
Too many. I do.
All right.
Because again, it's like, number one, no one's actually looking at that. But that's talking about an intake form. No one's actually looking at that. Number two, it's more fun to me than anything to see if they'll actually notice and
see if they actually
say something.
None of your business.
Now, in fairness, right, I haven't had any in several days, so it's not. I joke a little bit.
I'm joking with you, but I'm just saying that's how people think when they go to recall. They're number one. They're not going to, what do they call it? Inflict themselves, complicate themselves,
and that's the problem. Circling back with the food frequency questionnaire is no one is ever truly honest.
Whether they're doing it intentionally or not intentionally.
Or subconsciously.
Right.
Well, I would go back to the lack of education. We've talked about some of the friends we've had, and I had one recently. I said, well, what did you have for breakfast? And he goes, I had a healthy breakfast. And I was like, well, what'd you have? I had a blueberry muffin from Wawa.
Right.
I was like, whoa.
Healthy.
And I said, do me a favor, Google how many carbs are in that thing. And it was 88 grams of carbs.
Oh, gosh.
In a blueberry muffin. But he was truly convinced that was the healthy choice. So
right.
FFQs are broken. That's the point. People either don't understand it or they fib about it.
And then the other aspect of that is the whole correlation causation, right? He alludes to that a little bit, and they used yellow finger syndrome. Did you see that? So yellow finger syndrome was some of the researchers actually figured out that the tips of people's fingers were yellow when they had lung cancer. Right?
Right.
Correlation. So what's the correlation here, right?
Right.
Well, their fingertips are yellow because they're smoking cigarettes, right? So I thought that was hilarious. Of course, there's a correlation to lung cancer.
Right. Right.
So a lot of those can be wrong, right? Those correlations, those causations can actually be incorrect,
right.
And that absolutely happened with the Ansel Keys study. Whether it was, whether he truly tried to commit, scientific fraud or...
Right. I'm not going to make that judgment.
Right.
Who knows what was in the guy's helmet. But so that study led to the National Diet Heart Study, which involved a lot of municipality cities. They each had their own set of research scientists. And one of the guys involved was Ivan Franz. In the book. Talks Ivan Franz. And Ivan Franz totally bought in to Ansel Keys's hypothesis, right? And he supported it. And I think he was in the Minneapolis branch of the group. And so years later, another guy, what was his name? I
had it right here.
Marcus
Ramsden? I think it was Ramsden, yeah.
So this guy comes in and he goes, I'm going to dig into this National Diet Heart Study.
Christopher Ramsden.
Yep. So he digs in and he realizes that the outcomes they came to were flawed. And he actually contacted Ivan Franz's son,
who's a cardiologist now
at Moffitt.
Yeah.
Right? Was it Moffitt?
I don't know. I don't know where it was. It was Mayo.
Okay. And
Moffitt, Mayo. You say tomato, I say Moffitt.
So anyways, he contacts Ivan Franz's son, who's a cardiologist at Mayo, and says, dude, I think I can blow up your dad's research. I think it's all wrong. And the son looks at him and goes, my dad was a scientist. If his hypothesis was wrong,
he'd be happy to prove it wrong.
Right. And so they did. They ran with it. And since then, it's kind of been demonstrated. I don't want to say proven, because there is so much of the politics and the money and the politics of publication, whatever it was called, still involved. But what he found was that not only the argument that came out of, the National Diet Heart Study was that trans fats, vegetable oils, lowered cholesterol were more healthy for you.
We've talked about this over and over again.
Right. And what's his name? Ramsden? Mm-hmm. What Ramsden figured out was that there was no advantage to replacing saturated fats with trans fats.
Right.
That it actually did more harm.
Speak English. Margarine, vegetable oil, sunflower oil, canola
man-made
oil.
Fats.
Yes.
Man-made fats.
Man-made fats over...
Where they squeeze it out of a seed.
Over bacon grease and over... Yeah, there's not only no advantage, there was a significant disadvantage.
Your saturated fats come from meat, lard, tallow, butter, natural fats versus, I call them man-made. People will argue, but it's sunflower, it's canola.
Yeah, what's a canola? Anybody know what a canola is?
Historically, we did not derive the body's fat requirements from canola seeds. I don't think you can eat enough canola seeds to
gain enough oil.
It has to go through a man-made process of heat, extraction, chemical, etc.
Speaking of which, I did look at the back of olive oil bottles yesterday when I was at Publix, and that was interesting to see that a product called olive oil had 80% sunflower oil in it. If you can believe that. So, yeah, you don't just you look at the bottle, look at the ingredients.
Did you notice how it was labeled? Because
it was labeled olive oil.
Oh, right, but my understanding is that what you want is extra virgin. That's the cleanest.
Right.
Virgin is next, and then just olive oil. It certainly, I hopefully didn't say extra virgin on it.
I don't know what it said, but it was definitely, anyway, not to blow up this the topic, but yeah, look at your ingredients.
Huh.
So I guess that's where, that's what overall, and then they're like, all right, they have these studies, they come out, they get these studies, the results are fake, or the results are bad, they're not fake. But that should be the leaping point for extra studies. Right. And it was like, with really regarding the Ansel Keys, it was like that should have sawed off 100 or 80 years of data and research, and it was like that was gospel off of the Ansel Keys study. And if you want to fight that, you're not going to find funding, and we're not going to publish.
Right.
So there was like not a whole lot of research after the Ansel Keys study for a long time.
Yeah, the adoption of the cholesterol myth by the government and our medical practitioners. Bottom line, what this chapter teaches you is it was not supported by science. The actual science points the opposite direction. There was a cool graph, a funny graph in there.
Justin Bieber and Facebook and cholesterol. It was basically you can prove anything.
It was making fun of correlation, and what was it that the birth of Justin Bieber solved?
Yeah, I can actually point it out. Something right there. You probably can't see, but it was the birth of Justin Bieber lowered serum or raised serum cholesterol, and then when Facebook was invented, the serum cholesterol went back up. It was making a funny joke.
Right. It's the point of
evidence
correlation.
that Facebook canceled out the cholesterol lowering effects of Justin Bieber.
Yeah. So I thought it was a good chapter. They're obviously kind of laying the groundwork for where they're going and demonstrating that the prior information that we've been given before is likely flawed. I would say is flawed, but to be objective, that it might be flawed and that maybe we should have an open mind. Obviously, you and I have dug into this topic way outside of reviewing this book, but it's interesting that, again, when you really subject the information to random and controlled trials and true scientific evaluation, that much of what we know is flawed. Arguably, it's flawed. And, I know because I've already read this book that he's going to get into deeper trans fats and saturated fats. And that'll be interesting. I think the viewing audience will enjoy understanding why.
I'm certainly looking forward to it.
Okay. Anything else on chapter 3? Cholesterol is harmless.
It was good.
All right.
Good chapter.
Questions, comments, concerns, hit us at snackcast@yes.fit.
Stay moving.
See ya.